Hello and welcome everybody to our ninth digital masterclasses of the Committee of the Regions. I hope you are joining us numerously this afternoon, safe from your home and protected from the coronavirus. We are going to have a very interesting topic today, which is understanding social media analytics for better decision making. My name is Claudia Benze. I'm from the social media team of the Committee of the Regions. And I'm going to first introduce you to a couple of basic things about this webinar, which is, as I said, the ninth occasion of our Digital Masterclasses series. And then I'm going to introduce you our speakers today. So a few things I would like to tell you about the Digital Masterclasses, that this is a program that the Committee of the Region organized in 2020, which comprises of different elements. We are organizing expert talks, practical sessions, and personal coachings. First of all, to our members who are local and regional politicians and young elected politicians and their staff, but since the situation with the coronavirus and lockdown, we went very much digital and also very wide. So we are very welcome everybody else to these masterclasses online as well. How can you participate? Well, we are regularly promoting these masterclasses on our social media channels. So just follow us. And then one thing is that we're going to have soon a new webinar next week, which is going to be about Green Deal and Green Deal messaging. So we will be very curious to meet you there as well. Otherwise, in the below links, you can find out more information about the masterclasses. So don't hesitate to get in touch with the social media team of the Committee of the Regions if you would like to find out more about this program. And now I would like to introduce you to our speaker. Oh, no, sorry. First, I'm going to talk about a little bit housekeeping and then about our speaker. So a few rules about this webinar. This is being recorded, so you will have the chance to rewatch it. We are going to send out the link as well as a little takeaway summary document after the webinar is over. You will be able to ask us questions and especially the speaker question through the Q&A tool, which you can find in your webinar as you're watching. And this Q&A session is going to be organized right after Bogdan, our speaker, has his presentation. So you will just have to wait a little bit towards the second part of the webinar to get those answers. And then we are going to reply to those questions live. At the very end of the webinar, we are going to have a small evaluation poll. So please stay on and give us your opinion about this webinar. Also, we are going to have live chats during the webinar. So in the chat tool, you won't be able to chat with us, but you will be able to see some keynotes that we're going to take about our discussion here. And yes, without further ado, now I would like to introduce you our speaker, Bogdan, who has a very vast experience in social media, but also web and in general digital analytics. He has worked with private sector, public sector, very different stakeholders and did consulting for them. So we are very curious about his tips and tricks, how to make the most of social media analytics and a little bit in a more wider sense, web and digital analytics. So Bogdan, very welcome to our webinar.
Hi, Claudia. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and talk to you. As you see on the slide, I've been working with data science and analytics since 2012, and that's why when the COR asked me to be here and share some experiences with you, I was very happy to help with this. I've worked for consultations for the EU institutions. I worked a bit in marketing. And currently, I'm working at FTI Consulting as a senior director, where I aim to establish their data and analytics practice to be really the leaders in Brussels in driving strategic communications and advocacy via data. So without further ado, I will, Claudio. Okay, I can share my screen now. So. Not sure from the beginning. So can you see my slide?
It's perfect, yes.
Okay, lovely. So Normally I would start with why you should use data and analytics, but I think that right now the overall consensus is that these tools are incredibly important, and organizations which invest in using data and analytics and use them to inform their strategy constantly perform better than those who don't. So without further ado, I will just kind of get right into it. And to start to start working with social media data or with any kind of data, the first thing you have to do is step back from your computer. Data analysis it's really easy to get lost in all the insights and graphs and numbers that you can extract. It's really easy to screenshot tools which have nice graphs and bubbles and everything. But really, it's very easy to waste a lot of time and money to produce insights that help really nobody. So think about what you want to achieve with data, what are your business objectives, and try to make them smart. That is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This is by far the most important thing you have to do. Step 2, think about your organization. How is your office? What are your colleagues like? What is your management like? This is just a 2D representation of let's say, where an organization is in terms of digital maturity and how many resources they allocate to data. Organizations are, of course, much more complex, so this is a highly simplified version. But I'll just say that the worst place you can be is when your digital maturity is low and there's a lot of investment going on, because that usually means that some director or somebody very high up says data is important, let's put a lot of money into it, but we're not going to do anything with it or change anything. And that's basically a dumpster fire. It's going to end in tears. So that's the worst place. But I'm going to focus on this square here. I'm assuming this is where most of the participants are. I'm definitely hoping this is where they are. Otherwise, they're going to find this thing very, very boring. And I just want to, first thing I want to highlight is that if you are in a novice organization and have low resources, this is not an excuse. There are plenty of free tools. There are plenty of things you can do. And it only gets better. It's actually not that hard to push your organization into putting more resources into your practice, really. And I just want to highlight that in let's say an intermediate organization with intermediate resources available is basically where most advertising companies are. It's where they kind of have a program of using a bit of advertising on social media, having a few measurements, a few indicators, and this is where they sit, really. Okay. So let's go to, right now, let's make an inventory of the tools that you'll have at your disposal. The first ones I want to talk about, and really the first ones you should look at, are the native analytics. These are the analytics and numbers already embedded in your Twitter accounts. Well, not Twitter accounts, social media accounts. They all have native analytics, and all of them will provide you a set of indicators that you can use in forming your strategy. These are just some very high. When you access the analytics on your Twitter account, these will be some of the first things that you will see: a summary of your activity, a summary of your tweets and their performance. So how many impressions, engagements, and engagement rate. To be clear, impressions are how many times your content is viewed in a browser somewhere, and engagement means when someone interacted in whatever way with that content. As I said, all social media tools have this. There are obviously slight variations according to the tool in terms of indicators, but they are here and do not ignore them. They are very important.
Yeah. Maybe Bogdan, just one question here quickly before we continue that, because I think a lot of people have heard these expressions: impression, engagement, mentions, views, reach, and it's a little bit overwhelming in terms of what means what. And as you said, each platform has its own definition, so maybe it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different per each social media tool. But here the point is really to understand them, what they mean compared to each other. Am I right in that?
Yes. So I will say that some of them are fairly common to with all platforms. For example, impressions, you will see them on Facebook as well. You will see them on Instagram. Engagements, usually all platforms have some sort of label which quantify any interaction with that post. Facebook, for example, will have the different types of engagement. So you have likes, not retweets, like, love, smiley, I don't know, the little faces there. There's also the share, of course. I guess where they're important are, let's say there's an overview. There are several of these indicators, but when they become important is once you do step one. Once you set up your business objectives, then you see which of these indicators you actually need to look at. So you don't focus on everything, and if everything is important, then nothing is important. So later in the presentation, I'll show you. We'll do a bit of a show on how we select the indicators that are relevant. But there's no escaping that you will have to familiarize yourselves with this a bit in order to use them. Okay, so a few other tools for your tool inventory, for your toolbox, is one of which is TweetDeck. Now, if you use Twitter in your social media communications and you don't know about TweetDeck, then just by seeing and knowing about this tool, you have already gained the benefit from this webinar. And if you log off now and go to TweetDeck, you will already have been richer for attending this. You're welcome. So what this is a tool that's integrated into Twitter already. And what it allows you to do is see multiple hashtags, user updates.
Okay, it seems we have a bit of a technical problem. I think Bogdan's connection just got off. Hello, Bogdan. Can you hear us? Hello, hello. Bogdan, are you there?
Now I am, yes.
Yes, I think we had a bit of a connection problem.
Okay, is everybody still?
Yes, we are all here, don't worry. Also, the participants are here. They haven't escaped. So you can just continue. I think you were just talking about if you know TweetDeck and you try out TweetDeck already after this webinar, then you are already one step further.
Okay, great. No, what I just proceed to describe TweetDeck a bit. So what it allows you to do, it's a tool already integrated into Twitter. So you don't need to create an account. You just go to TweetDeck, you log in with your Twitter account, and you will see something similar to this. And what it allows you to do is monitor at the same time multiple hashtags, multiple updates from users, multiple keywords, and also apply filters to them. Why this is important is because when you are talking about an issue, any kind of issue, there will be multiple ways in which people discuss it. There will be multiple ways in which you want to filter that information, and you really want it to be easy and not work a lot on it. So you can just, at the beginning of a communications campaign or a communications action, you just set this up and you view it maybe once a day in the morning when you have your coffee, and just get a quick update on what let's say the feel of the conversation is on Twitter. And it's, again, this is very, very easy. So another great tool which I like is Follower Wonk. What this allows you to do is explore a profile, either yours or someone else's, and their followers. And it's very good for this. For example, I just typed in the Committee of the Regions here for this deck. And you can see, for example, here on the upper right image, this is when they tweet, when you guys tweet, actually, the distribution of retweets, tweets with contact and without content. The bio, the word cloud of what your users, what your followers say, and what their bios are. And also you have a lot more insights on this. So it's a really, really great way to gauge both your followership and the followership of maybe peers or people you think are important.
So a great way to spy.
No, it's not spying, it's research. Very, very different. And I will hold to that in court. Another one for your toolbox. Again, it has a free tier. So all I've discussed so far has a free tier. Social Rank. So again, another way to spy on your followers, but this time it focuses really on how important they are. So this gives you a really easy way to see which ones of your followers or of a competitor or a peer's followers are important. One note on SocialRank. Right now, they paused their memberships. That means that if you want to log in to register for it, you will be on a waiting list, but you will get there eventually, just so you know. Another one which I really, really like is Audisense. And this really provides a really excellent view of the conversation in terms of what free software does on Twitter. So how it works is this. You put in a report name, then you put in either some keywords or accounts you want to follow, hashtags, and it gives you a really good idea of the demographics and of your audience, of the audience that's talking about this, where they live, what they do, and what else are they talking about, and what are they. So just so you know, I will provide links to all these tools in a handout that will follow this. So you don't need to note everything down. All the information on how to access them and going into a lot more details will be provided in a handout. Another note I want to make is that social media data is not independent from the web. There are a lot of other tools that you can complement social media data with at one point in your, let's say, in your journey in this field. And I know there's a lot of Google here. I'm not trying to sell you their products, but fact of the matter remains, they have a lot of free tools which you can use to get insights. Google Analytics, but basically this could be any website analytics. Any website analytics will provide you information of what people who arrived to that site via social media did. This is incredibly important to gauge what is the impact of your communications, especially in case you want people to do something on your website.
Here there is, I think, something to mention, because I think maybe some people still have this kind of idea that your website, whatever you publish on the internet, people will just find out about it. But this is absolutely not the case. We know that there is an information overload that is just growing and growing. So it's every time more difficult to find what you are looking for, and even more difficult for those who are trying to reach out to others to reach the people. So understanding your data, your statistics on your web or on your social media accounts is exactly a way of getting people to see what you're publishing, right?
Exactly. And it's also a way to see if there are gaps in your messaging, in your, let's say, conversion funnel. A conversion funnel is something that when you do a broad reach, so a broad communications, how many of those people take certain steps to reach the action you want them to do, register for an event maybe, or download a publication. So for example, if you see that people are clicking on the link to your website, but they're dropping for some reason, you might want to check whether the page you're sending them to is okay, if it maybe is confusing, maybe a form doesn't work. So it's really, really important to mix these things and not view them in silos. Even though, unfortunately, I know that a lot of organizations did structure their teams into these silos. They are quite artificial, but it's something you will have to overcome.
But exactly, one information helps you to understand something else that you're doing.
Yes. What I also want to flag is Google Search Console. And I really want to flag this because I noticed that a lot of websites don't have it. What this is, if anybody works with analytics, you will know that once you click on your search data, you will see keyword not found. And Search Console gives you this information. So it gives you the information, what did people type to get to your website in Google? It's hugely important, and not enough websites have it, really. Google Trends allows you to track the trends of searches. Google Alerts, it's just a very basic way to see if something is happening that maybe you're not aware of, or you need to be aware of it if it does. And Google Ads really has a whole series of little tools within it, even if you're not an advertiser, to understand what content is important. To give you an example, one of their tools is called Keyword Planner. And let's say if you type in regional development, you will see what other keywords people that typed regional development use to reach similar websites. So it's very important. So this is very useful to expand let's say the syntax field of your communications. Okay, this is just one slide that I want to encompass all the premium tools. When I say premium tools, I'm talking about tools that cost somewhere between 500 and 2,000 euros per month. These are excellent tools. At our organization, we use very advanced analytics and data science and custom scripts. but we still use tools like this as a data source, if nothing else. So they are really great. These screenshots are from a tool called Brandwatch. And this is a query meaning a set of keywords that I want to find were mentioned in either news articles or social media posts on the COR. So we can see there are a few peaks, the latter of which is, unfortunately, I can't see my own screen. Here it is. Related to the EU Regions Week and the regional and local barometer that was launched then. So you can track the peaks in your activity. You can see which websites are talking about, which other Twitter accounts are talking about this. We can see here Sky News, the EU Commission, Gentiloni, von der Leyen, Elio Di Rupo, highly, highly useful information. And this word cloud allows you to see, okay, within the context of people mentioning the Committee of Regions, what else were they saying? They're talking about a lot about COVID, about the EU Region Week, about regional development. They're using the European Union's emoji. So, and of course, all these tools permit you to filter down. So let's say, okay, I only want to see what people that were mentioning von der Leyen and Elio Di Rupo were saying. You can, of course, recalibrate all these graphs, all these insights for that specific filter. They're great tools, but they are expensive.
Here, if I may just, so here what we are doing exactly is not only just analyzing what our communications actions are doing, but we're actually listening into the conversation of others.
Exactly. This is a listening service, and it allows you to inform yourself on what you should be talking about and what that audience cares about. As I said, just to mention a few other tools, so to not single out Brandwatch, there's Stockwalker, BuzzSumo, there's Analytica. Again, more information in the handover. Now, what I also want you to add to your toolbox are dashboarding solutions. So what are these? At the beginning of your journey, and when you download your first reports, you see the first things, your instinct will be, okay, I'm going to take this information, put them in an Excel sheet. I will make some graphs, some visualizations, copy paste them into Word, add a few text, send an email to my manager or to my colleagues. Once you have multiple data sources, once you need to get information from Twitter, Facebook, TweetDeck, and a few other things, it becomes a bit overwhelming. And that's when you should remember dashboards are your friends. What are dashboards? They are pages online which constantly get fed this information and produce visuals. I'm going to mention again Google Data Studio because it has an excellent free online service. So all the others are paid solutions, and they are great because they provide more connectors. What does a connector mean? It means that instead of copy pasting your data into a database somewhere, those connectors take the information directly from your API. So like magic, when you post another thing on Twitter, let's say, all those statistics go directly into the database. Like magic, Google Data Studio doesn't have them by default, although they do have connectors to Google products, but you can buy them for extremely cheap prices. We're talking about 25 euros per month, and you get excellent connectors as well.
Yes, I think once you are, probably many of us are very proud of our Excel graph skills, but this is a next level. So this is when you are like really proficient already with your Excel graphs, and exactly you don't want to update them continuously by yourself, but you want to automate the process. Then these tools can be quite handy to do that.
Exactly, and don't worry, your Excel skills will never leave you. They are very useful here as well. Okay. Now, as dashboards are inherently visual things, I'm just going to, let's see if, I'm going to rely on you to tell me if the link works. Can you see this, Claudia?
I'm still seeing your slide, I think.
And did anything change? Because I'm already on.
I think I'm seeing your slide. Probably you're presenting the slide, so that's why we can't now. Now, yes, it's
okay. You see the dashboard. Okay,
not yet. Still not yet. Now I see your presentation that is about the TweetDeck.
Oh, okay. Has anything changed?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, let me try something else. Share. How about now?
I think now it's, yes, now I see the link,
Okay.
now I see your browser, so yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. So one of the connectors from Data Studio also provides templates on how you can use native analytics in a dashboard. I will make all these templates available in the handout for after this, but and I encourage you to really look at them, because not only will they give you information on how to build a dashboard, they will also give you information on what indicators you can extract from each of your social media accounts. So if we go a bit to Facebook, just explore the dashboard a bit, maybe we take a different date range, apply. So you can really see how the content they are publishing, what is the reaction to it. So what is the engagement, the impressions, the post clicks, etc. So again, very useful, highly encourage you to use it. And now let's see if I can switch back to my, can you see my deck now?
Yes, we're back at the deck.
Okay, great. From current slide. And I just wanted to show you this. This is a screenshot of a dashboard I built where I integrated multiple sources. So of course, as I said, a dashboard can integrate more than one social media source. And if your project requires you to do so, I strongly encourage you to do it. Now, finally, for your toolbox, I want to mention social media management tools. Strictly speaking, these are not data analytics tools. They are tools for you to to manage your content better and for your teams to collaborate better in publishing content. I am mentioning them because some of them do also provide analytics services, especially for your native analytics. And I want to highlight two ones which are free in case you are maybe, again, starting off on this journey and you're still not sure how to distribute your budget. So Later and Social Noomph have free tiers, and the other ones are quite good, and probably Hootsuite is the most famous of them. And they're very useful, they're very user-friendly, a lot of trainings on how to use them, and they're fairly cheap. I think they start from 25 euros a month.
So what is the advantage of using such a management tool compared to logging into your Twitter separately, logging into your Facebook separately, and doing the posting there?
One word: time. If just imagine the time it takes for you to log into each of those social media accounts, to change your browser every time, to schedule your post via their, if they allow you to schedule your post, that is. These just simplify your life with all of this. It also allows you to transfer content a lot easier between the platforms. So again, time saver. And another advantage, but I found this, I mean, it's also an advantage, but I found it, let's say, the second prize for advantages, is that it collaborates better within teams. So if you're a larger team, let's say there are 5 people, it becomes very hard to manage who logs in, when, how, who publishes, and so on and so forth. If you're just one person, this doesn't really help that much, or even 2 people. But 3 upwards, it becomes really a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have bombarded you with information. Hopefully you're still with me. But let's now move on to how to use this information actually. So let's imagine you are, I've made an example of a brief. I hope it's relevant to you, but imagine you are working at the Covenant of Mayors. I don't have any insights onto how their social media team functions. I don't know if this is typical of what they see, and I don't know anything. Well, I know what they are, but I don't know anything about how their social media analytics works.
Yeah. So it's an imaginary Covenant of Mayors.
Yeah, well, no, it's the real Covenant of Mayors. This is an imaginary brief for their team, which I'm assuming exists.
Okay.
So imagine that your manager says, in 4 months, you have an event on data needs for smart cities. This is not a topic the Covenant of Mayors usually covers. They have identified the topics and the speakers. And this conference aims to produce debates, recommendations, and working papers and commitments for them to share with their members and then use in their advocacy efforts. And they want your help. Well, they need all the team's help on this. They want to attract relevant registrations. They want to position themselves as a relevant player in this discussion. And they want to implement a communications plan to promote the deliverables. They're not focused on social media. You are part of the broader communications team. there's a fairly high interest in this, but investment is moderate. So they want you to do more with less. So again, we step back and we consider the business objective. From their brief, you can identify 4 broad level objectives. Number 1, increase the registrations. So this, using your web, so this is probably the most important one, or one of the most important ones. And what you need to do is talk to the webmaster and tell them, or in case maybe you are the webmaster, and in your analytics, set up the event registration as an objective. And once you do that, you will be able to filter down and see how many people which arrived to the website via social media registered, so achieved the objectives. That is called a conversion. So the, let's say, analytics talk for this indicator is increased conversions via social media. Then, how many people click on the registration from your social media posts? So this is basically, again, increased link clicks as the measurable KPI. Then, if you're going to advance to advertising, you will want to get as many clicks as possible for the least amount of money. So decrease the cost per click. Again, KPI. Then, another broad objective, position yourself as relevant in the discussion. What you will want is for your posts about smart cities to be visible, hence increase your impressions. You will want for your engagement with these posts to be at least as high as your previous engagements. So you don't want your audience to engage with these less than they normally do with your content. So maintain or increase the engagement rate. And again, if you end up using advertising, decrease the costs. Then increase your followership. You are going to target a new audience and you want them to follow you. So increase the follower count and measure that. And then as a communication strategy, all these indicators will provide you with content and a better position on which to develop that. So these things contribute immensely to point 4.
So basically what you just walked us through is we just translated our communication objectives that are, let's say, quite clear to us into social media and web KPIs. And
exactly.
This is easy.
Yeah, and honestly, you can have the best tools out there. If you don't have a clear idea of this, you're just gonna produce a number of incredibly nice graphs that will be very interesting and will waste everybody's time. I mean, maybe you'll be lucky, but normally this is what happens. Okay, so now assess your situation in order to plan your approach. This is, again, project management, a bit more project management than social media analytics, really, but it's very important. It's very, very, very important. So your website, the Covenant of Mayors, is quite good. It has analytics, and they are active on social media, and on Twitter and Facebook, they are actually quite popular. So it's not a bad starting point at all. Now, let's assume that the management is not willing to invest in advertising, but they're not close to it. So they can, if they see the value, they might give you the money. So it's up to you to show value of this. But let's assume you don't have a lot of time. You have 0.5 FTEs. That basically means it's half a full-time. It's half a full-time worker. So that means that you are managing. There's one person. You are managing their social media, but you have to do other stuff on the side. And I'm hoping this is a situation a lot of people can relate to. So because of this, the tentative plan of action would be to use the free tools available to research how the topic of smart cities is being discussed and how the speakers you have invited approach it. Get a benchmark of the indicators you will use. So those indicators that I mentioned, what are their values today? Then the reporting structure. How will you report on these indicators? Set that up in order, it will make your life easier in the coming months, and push for small investments in advertising if results show promise. And that's where the reporting comes in really helpful. So research and setting up already your report in advance. Yes, think about how you want to do that. Think about what tools you're happy with. Are you happy with Excel and you don't have time to learn a dashboard? That's fine, go with that. But have a plan, basically. Okay, so as with any project, it's best to start off easy. So TweetDeck. So smart cities. I have looked for I want to see smart cities. Oh, by the way, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Like the browser or the presentation?
It's the presentation.
Okay, sorry. I have to. switch to browser. I am sorry. Are you seeing my browser now?
No, it's still the presentation. Now it's the browser, yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is an example tweet deck which you can implement for smart cities. So hashtag smart cities, but I don't want all the mentions. I just want the ones which have at least 5 retweets. So great. I'm gonna refresh it. Again, hashtag smart city, but also filter at least 5 retweets or whatever other indicator you want. I want to follow this user. He's very important. I want to see everything that he says. I care about Vestager, but I don't care about everything Vestager says. I want Vestager to match the content cities. You can exclude, you can put more stuff. It's really easy to filter. And I want the hashtag regional development. I see from my research that this is also associated with smart cities, and I also want to follow this. So you just set up this dashboard with your initial thoughts, and then you update it as you move along. Again, I'm going to share. Okay, do you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, native analytics. Native analytics. This is these are the indicators that we have talked about. You get them from your native analytics, and you see average engagement rate. That's it on Twitter and Facebook. Link click, number of impressions, cost per click, event conversion from social media. So these are the indicators from today, let's say for the past 3 months. To get them, and again, I'll have to switch to my browser. So let's do a bit of tech magic here. Can you see my browser?
I think not yet. Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to show Twitter because for a lot of the other tools, you actually need a business account. But you click here, you click on analytics, and you can start seeing the summary, the top tweet. This is a research account, by the way, so there's nothing, let's say, that I usually tweet about here. But I just want to show you the interface and how you have the engagement, the link clicks, and to export your data in raw format, you click here. So what is the period? Maybe a few months, and you click on export data. And it will provide you with a download of an Excel file with all the numbers you need. Okay, PowerPoint again. Then learn about your audience via follower wonk. I think I'm just going to stick to. Do you see the browser?
Yes.
So this is the Covenant of Mayors. And as you can see, you have an overview of the account, where your followers are, your tweets, which you would know at this. These are actually when your followers tweet. So this is a very good indicator to see when are they active and when maybe you should also publish and think about putting content up.
So it does matter what time you do tweet or what day?
It might matter. I don't know. It might matter or it might not. But this is an indicator you might want to take into account of. If you see, for example, you try it out and you see, okay, I'm gonna tweet at 3 o'clock, but I notice that actually my 1 o'clock posts perform better for whatever reason, then it's fine. But it's at least an indicator which you may take into consideration. Now, the bio word cloud of your followers is actually very interesting for this project because you have sustainable, urban, and cities. So obviously they care about cities, they care about smart cities, and if you can add the word how, and if you can talk about how smart cities make them sustainable cities to fight climate change, there's a higher chance that your followers will engage with that content. So again, it informs how you publish things. This graph here is a little less interesting for this. It's how this tool gauges your followers' influence. Now, you don't care that much about their online influence. You want them to be relevant, maybe academically or in other respects, more professionally about smart cities, but maybe for other projects or as amplifiers of your message, this is also useful information to have. And it shows that actually your base, again, is not bad to engage your existing followership.
So for example, if you were to look for a couple of people who could be an influencer of your topic that you would like to work with, this would be a way of finding them. Okay, I found here a couple of people who are quite active and quite engaging, so I could maybe set up a partnership with them.
Exactly. Although I think follower wonk is not the best one for that. That's probably social rank. But yes, this is the idea. Partner with people. Partner, be social with people on social media.
Yes, being social on social media is quite important.
Okay, and I'm not going to switch back to my presentation because it just takes. Then you can do. This is AudiSense. So again, get insights on some keywords. With this tool. I think I forgot the keywords I used, but I think it was hashtag smart cities, a few users, and I think regional development or something like that. And then it allows you to get a fast idea on the type of content and the type of people that are publishing this. So this is very interesting. For example, you see all segments, and you can see that people are talking about renewable buildings, transport, Internet of Things. This is great for your content. You know that people that are engaging with smart cities care about having energy efficient buildings. Great. Maybe the data and all the high-end mobile stuff isn't actually that relevant to a number of people. And you see, okay, who are the people that are talking about this? What are some keywords? And you can, I encourage you to really dig into this tool at your own pace and get familiar with it, because in terms of free tools, it's really a great way to get a bit of an idea of who the audience for this is and what they are talking about and what are the things they are interested in. So now I will switch to the presentation. So do you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes, it has just shown.
Okay, I think I'm going to stick to the PowerPoint. So
yeah.
So armed with all this information, you are now going to start publishing relevant content using the keywords and insights acquired so far. So you know that you want to talk about renewable buildings, that your audience cares about urban development, that you care about climate change. So smart cities is not really about technology, it's about climate change, at least as an initial thought. Then, using the native analytics and your reporting structures, check the performance of your posts. What works best? What are the times that are working better? What are the hashtags that are useful? Which are the followers that you want to be retweeted by? All these things, there are indicators, and just see what works for you. Which types of posts make those indicators, those KPIs that we identified grow fastest? And then create your reporting structure. Share this information with your colleagues, with your managers, because if you keep it to yourself, maybe I should have said this at the beginning, but social media analytics doesn't take decisions. Decisions are taken by people that are informed by this. If they are not informed, it just doesn't add the value necessary. So create this reporting structure, argue your case, argue why it's important, and prove that it's important, because all these indicators allow you to do it.
Right.
And sorry?
No, I was just saying that this is a very great remark, because indeed only half the job is done by producing the nice graphs and the interesting data sheets. But if you are not interpreting them and sharing them with the people who would take the decisions, then they are quite in vain.
Yes, and actually this is why, and I should also want to mention is make your data visual. No one, very few people like Excel tabs. I love them, but I work with code and data, but most people don't.
Yeah.
And
just wanted to say, Bogdan,
yes,
that we are having a lot of questions here, and time is a bit scarce. So maybe
I am almost done.
We would soon need to move towards the questions.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, this is just a flow of, if you get advertising budgets, bear this in mind. Launch the campaign with advertising. Your costs will be initially higher, but do the same process basically. Update and improve, and make your posts better and more relevant. And a few more thoughts before finishing, and I'm done. So this is not easy. I have showed you, nice circular graphs and everything. Expect bumps in the road. It's actually hard. Be mindful of GDPR. I am not a lawyer. No one should pay me for legal advice, and these are my thoughts. But the moment you start, it's okay to make lists. It's okay to say, these accounts are relevant, but do not use, let's say, bad characteristics. Do not say about an account they are bad, they hate someone, they are a EU phobe or a Russophobe or anything. That could, if that leaks, that's a big GDPR problem. If you add, things that are not true or are interpretable about people, ask your legal advice for this, really. People are more important than tools. You can have the best tools if the people are not there. You can have basically amazing things with few people and no budget, just so you know. And there is much more beyond the horizon. As I said, there are machine learning scripts to identify fake news. There are data sets to gather parliamentary questions from across Europe and analyze broad themes. There's so much to get into, but these are just the first steps. There's so much more beyond this. And yes, don't hesitate to get in touch. And I hope I'm on time, Claudia.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, there are a lot of very interesting things in this presentation. And as you said, you can go broad, you can go small, but the important is that you start caring about your social media and digital data because they carry a lot of valuable information for you. Now I'm just looking at the Q&A section, and we already have quite a few questions here, but I would still encourage people to ask questions. We will try to reply everything, and if it's not possible,
should I
then
stop sharing?
Yeah, you can leave it like that. It doesn't matter. Okay. So we had one question about specifically about Twitter. A participant is asking that Twitter disabled the audience insights earlier this year. And if you could recommend which tool would be very good that would help you to look into Twitter audiences in general. So which one of the tools you mentioned or any other tool that would give like an in-depth breakdown of demographics of your audience on Twitter?
So SocialRank would be a good one. FollowerWonk also does this. So you do have some demographic information. And if you're willing to pay for tools, then all the premium ones really, so Brandwatch, Analytica, all of these still provide those insights.
We also have another tool-related question. Julia is asking about Social Bakers, if you know the tool and if you could compare it to the other tools that you mentioned.
I know Social Bakers. I haven't used them in a while. So again, I guess one of the problems is how you use, why are you using these tools? Because right now, the reason I'm using the tools is as a data source. I am not using their interfaces or graphics. I just link to the API and I get, I get their database. So for that, Brandwatch is really great. Social Bakers, I said I haven't used in a while, but I know that for visuals, Analytica is really good. I know that BuzzSumo, I worked with it recently. It's excellent for getting content that is trending. So if you have if you want content that is being shared, not necessarily. So let's say you don't want to explore the conversation, but you want to really know what content is being shared about smart cities, then BuzzSumo is really good. And I think maybe I can even share. I think you can try out one for. Sorry, my it's very hard to get. Sorry. Yeah. Never mind. I think there was, yeah, BuzzSumo does allow you to try it out a bit, but it's great for getting the information that is trending online and being shared a lot. Sorry for that.
Then we have another question related to tool. Actually, most of the questions are related to tools. Claudia is asking whether with these tools or which one of the tools you can actually look into other institutions or other bodies' accounts performance. I think you showed an example when you could look at other accounts, but yeah, which one would be the best to really look at your competitors, peers?
Honestly, again, I don't think there's a best tool. All these tools provide roughly the same information. The best tool is you. You have to be creative about this. You have to explore these things, see what works best for you and for your particular situation, and then go with that. For example, let's say I can say, yes, FollowerWonk is the best. but follower wonk will provide you a variation of the same data that maybe social ranking does, or BuzzSumo, or even the premium tools. Ideally for you, you need to see your strategy, have clear objectives, and then as a benchmark, remember when getting information from other institutions or from competitors, it's important to remember that your context might be different, and the best benchmark is actually your own performance. It's a bit like running. It's a bit what is the average distance a human will run, and that will vary greatly. And as any trainer will tell you, the best thing is to improve on your own performance. And honestly, on tools, there will be a handout which has a lot more information and further readings into this. But I guess if you really like, the best tool to compare yourself with other accounts is Social Rank on Twitter.
Great. I think we have here an interesting, I would say, I would a bit reformulate this question, because the question says, how would you make people retweet you? But the question is, how can analytics help you to get people retweet you?
That, Claudia, is an excellent reformulation, because the best way for people to retweet you is to publish relevant content. That is by far the best way. On your analytics, it's how we discussed. You see your KPIs, so your engagement rate and the information you have available. You publish a few things. Let's say for smart cities, you use the hashtag smart cities. Then you use hashtag regional development. Then you maybe mention someone, or you reply to a conversation that is happening via, let's say, TweetDeck, or one of the dashboarding tools or one of the tools you are using to monitor. Then you see how all these messages or variations of this message perform. And then you select the ones that perform best and just forget the ones that don't perform. And that's how you do this.
Yes. Thank you. And yeah, there are a lot of very technical questions about the tools as well. So maybe one I pick is that you mentioned also the management tools such as Hootsuite or Buffer that allow you to schedule your content. And so, for example, LinkedIn is quite a difficult platform in that sense. LinkedIn doesn't really allow to schedule easily posts and tagging people in it, which is an important social media trick, to tag the person so that they are notified about the post. Do you have like a suggestion? What is the best tool for scheduling, which actually includes all the features of a native platform? Does that exist?
I'm sure it exists. I'm probably not the best position to answer that question, because I don't use these tools a lot. My experience is really in analyzing this data and not in producing the content or managing the tools, or let's say managing the accounts per se. So the honest answer is I'm not sure.
Maybe I can add to that, since me and my team, we are doing a lot of management, that there's no perfect tool out there. There are a lot of tools with lots of features, but you will never find the one dancing, one singing solution for anything. So you always have to find the one that best fits your objectives. We still have a question and some time for questions. So yeah, interesting question about reporting periods. Facebook only allows 28 days to look into when it's a native platforms, or are these tools that you were mentioning are able to look into wider periods, like 30 days or even wider in their free version? Let's say, let's talk about the free versions.
Yeah. So again, the short answer is, I think yes. I think Facebook would allow you to do this, but I mostly check Facebook via the API. So I know that if you tag it in the API, then you have a lot of richness in that. In the manual reporting, I haven't done it in a while. But that being said, when you set up a report, and especially if you use a dashboard, so for example, you use Data Studio and you buy the Facebook connector, then that kind of releases this problem, because it connects to the API and it does get your data for a longer period of time. Yeah. So if that is the request, that if that is the problem you are trying to solve, a fairly cheap way to do that is via a dashboard with a connector. Or if you know how to code, or if you have a webmaster that knows how to code, bear in mind that this an API connection with Facebook is very easy. So maybe ask them nicely to do it for you.
Yeah, it's always good to have those friends who know how to code. Yeah, a few other technical questions, but most of them are referring to the fact that free tools are, of course, limited to some extent, which you already mentioned. So free tools can do certain things, but they will never do the full list of features that if you are paying for them. So that's kind of expectable, but it still offers good enough data, especially when you're starting off to analyze your data. I have a question myself that I was saving for the last minute. We discussed a lot about how why analytics helps your decisions in terms of how you reach out to people, but in a wider sense, in terms of your organization's objectives. I would like to turn the question around. What do you risk if you don't look into your social media and digital analytics?
So your most important risk is an increased risk of failure. If you don't have measurements, then you are blind. You basically don't know what works, what doesn't. And yes, there's an increased risk of failure is the most simplest answer. There was a quote in advertising that I know I'm wasting half my money on advertising. The problem is I don't know which half. And this really solves this problem. And again, what I would say is keep in mind there's so much more on the horizon. I don't have time to touch on natural language processing, on databases, on cloud infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And organizations and users are expecting you to work with these things. They are expecting you to fulfill their needs and to answer on social media. They are expecting their messages to be picked up or to have an impact somewhere, because the other people are doing it. Private companies are doing it, consultancies are doing it, marketing is doing it. So there's this expectation on the users on the one hand, and then there is the management, let's say, reporting structure, so your internal needs, to say which parts of my organization work and which don't. And it is important to say and to argue to people why these things work or don't work. There's also a strong possibility that your organization is just burning money with a certain audience that maybe, let's say you are burning money in promoting Twitter posts and you are spending money on this. If your audience is only on LinkedIn or Twitter doesn't allow you the formats necessary to push your messages correctly, then that is simply a waste, and you should avoid that.
Indeed. And then the big advantage here is that you actually own a lot of data that you can exploit to understand what is happening and what is not happening. If you compare it to, let's say, traditional media, when you just pay for a very expensive TV spot, it will be very difficult for you to find out how much impact that you actually had on the thing that you wanted to advertise. We have one final question, just to be on time. That's something we didn't explicitly touch upon, but I think it's interesting for a lot of people. Are there any tools out there among those that you mentioned or other ones that really help you to identify fake people, fake accounts, or fake news, or help you a little bit to counter this disinformation vague that we are facing day by day?
The short answer is no. No. The short answer is no. The long answer is there are solutions to these problems. The issue is that as fake accounts keep updating their usernames, their messages, and everything, there's no AI, or let's say there's no general AI that can identify any fake post in any context in any period. So what companies tend to do is train an AI algorithm to identify certain posts that are fake news, and then let's say you tackle that problem. For example, at FTI, we had a client which wanted to identify fake news about 5G in the UK. So we built an algorithm to do that. It worked in identifying the 5G posts, but as with any AI algorithm, it became completely useless when you try to identify other things. I don't know, US election campaign. It doesn't work. You have to redo the work again. So there's no tool that I know of that outright gives you this information. There are tools that help you indicate what it might be. For example, there's a tool called Qlik. It's quite expensive, but that analyzes text. So its specialty is taking social media text and analyzing into information clusters. Now, if you notice that an information cluster is composed of what is already identified as fake news, so in this case, 5G gives you COVID, you can see which users are part of that information cluster and then filter them out or report them. But again, there's no, let's say there's no easy way. I mean, you can just lay back and say, oh, here are the accounts. We've already also notified Twitter and they will delete them. You know, there's nothing more for you to do. It's quite a complex work. It's expensive work, and it's constantly customizable, or you need to custom it all the time. And it's quite technical.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. I think we ran out of time for more questions, but thank you also for all the participants who asked all these interesting questions. We would like to now just quickly share with you a short assessment poll, how you enjoyed the webinar. And yeah, just to remind you that in the handout and in the follow-up emails of this webinar, we are going to include all the tools that Bogdan mentioned. So you will have the list, you will have the understanding of what whether they are available freely or not. So you will still get all the technical information that that you wanted to know. And then, yeah, test, try, experiment. Really, social media analytics can be a lot of fun, and you shouldn't feel overwhelmed. So, Bogdan, I would like to thank you for your participation.
My pleasure. It was great to be here.
And I hope we see you soon, dear participants, at our next Digital Masterclass. As I said, the next one is on the 5th of November. So please follow us on social media to find out to how to sign up. And yes, thank you for all your participation, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.